The reader in me feels like I need to read the book first, but I'm mixed about reading this book first. I know they are also filming Maybe in Another Life. No. And I don't even know if it's a movie or if it's a miniseries, but it's Anatomy of a Scandal. So this came out in 1996. I feel like this is a book that nobody ever talks about, which is such a... Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today's video is going to be about a whole bunch of books that either have TV adaptations or movie adaptations. Some are new, some are old. And the reader in me says, always read the book first. But what started this entire thought process, or sort of the trigger that bloomed it into the idea of a video, is that Hulu has that Liane Moriarty 9 Perfect Strangers miniseries out. And I really am curious to watch it, but I haven't read the book yet. And I'm kind of not totally interested in reading the book. But I bought the book, so I feel like I should read the book. And I feel like therein lies the struggle we all deal with. Book before movie. Is the book better than the show? What is a girl to do? So I thought the best thing to do is to turn it into a video and to just, talk about a whole mess of books. So that's what we're gonna do. So first up, obviously, is 9 Perfect Strangers by Liane Moriarty. So this is about a group of 9 perfect strangers, and they go to a health resort, the Tranquillium House, which promises total transformation. There's a tongue twister. And it's 10 days that will change everything. How many words in this title, or how many words in this description can start with a T? So it's 9 stressed city dwellers. They drop their literal and mental baggage. They are miles away from home. And it says, from behind the retreat's glamorous facade lies a dark agenda. These 9 perfect strangers have no idea what is about to hit them. So, like many, many people, I loved Big Little Lies, the book and the show, spot on. And I heard some not so great things about this book, but I bought it when it first came out. And I'm intrigued, but at the same time, I haven't picked it up yet. And I got this book a couple of years ago, but I want to watch the show. So I don't know what to do. Somebody please chime in on this one. But this is the first book, so stay tuned. I'm going to kind of go back and forth between things I've read and things I haven't. So first up, I would say 1000% read the book before you dive into the first season of the show. And this is You by Carolyn Kempnes. The show does a very good job. The book is better. And I don't care what anybody says. I love Joe Goldberg. I love being in his head. It is a dark and messed up place to be. This book is written in second person. It's uber creepy. And I just think Carolyn Kempnes is so smart. It's wicked. There's funny moments. There's uncomfortable moments. It will make you completely question your social media presence. And it will also make you question every bookstore worker out there. I'm sorry, people who work in bookstores. But Joe works at a bookstore in the East Village. He seems just like a nice dude. And this woman, Guinevere Beck, aka Beck, shows up one day. She's buying some books and he becomes obsessed. And he manages to insert himself into her life and will eliminate anything and anyone who gets in their way. So there are 3 books in this series. I did read the second one, Hidden Bodies. My understanding is season 2 of You doesn't wholly follow book 2. And then I have the 3rd book, You Love Me, which I haven't read yet. And my understanding is the 3rd season of You just totally goes like off into a totally different direction. But I would say to read this first. If you've watched the show, I would still read this because there's so much more to it. But ooh, it's creepy because in the second person, every time he says you, it's like he's talking to you. There's a reason people obsess about this book. So a book I picked up recently from Thrift Books is The Runaway Jury by John Grisham. And I had this book all the way back when it first came out. And I don't remember it. This book came out in 1996, and I know that there was a movie. This was the Grisham heyday of The Firm and The Client and The Rainmaker, and John Cusack was in this, and I don't remember who else. I never saw the movie, but I would love to read this again and then watch the movie. I did that with The Client 2 years ago, I want to say. I have a mission to do it again with The Time to Kill, which another one, brilliant book, very well done movie. And I think back in the heyday, same, like The Firm was great. The book was really great. The movie was wholly entertaining. I would definitely love to revisit these Grisham books and watch those original movies because it does bring me a little bit of nostalgia, but they were also very good. And there's so many marquee Hollywood actors in them that I just think it would be kind of a fun thing to do. So I'm going to double down on my next one, and it's Gillian Flynn's Gone Girl, and it's Gillian Flynn's Sharp Objects. So let's start with the original, even though this is the original. Let's start with the original. So Sharp Objects is such a brilliant book. I did read Gone Girl first, which is why I was saying the original, because it was the original I read. But Sharp Objects is about a woman named Camille Preaker, and she is a journalist. She has left her small town, but she gets pulled back in because there are some dark and messed up murders of some young teenage girls that happen, and she gets sent there to cover the story. And in the process, she gets to deal with her twisted relationship with her mother and her half-sister that she doesn't even really know. And she gets pulled back into sort of all the old dysfunctional memories of having lived there. It's definitely dark. There is an HBO miniseries of this with Amy Adams that is so brilliantly done. I think it does such justice to the book. Gillian Flynn was involved in it. Amy Adams is such a brilliant actress. The music of it is great. It's just a really, really well done version of this book and really nails it in so many ways. And along those exact same lines, Gone Girl. So again, Gillian Flynn wrote the movie, David Fincher directed it, Ben Affleck, Rosamund Pike, Neil Patrick Harris. It's so well done. Read the book first. Even if you know the twist of the movie and you've seen the movie, I would still read the book. This is such beautifully crafted writing. I've read this several times. I plan to read it again. I just am blown away every time I read this book. Nick and Amy Dunn. It is that twist of the typical story of the wife goes missing, and of course the husband did it. But what is really going on? Dark and messed up. Is there a theme here? There's always a theme here. Dark and messed up. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. I could watch this movie multiple times too. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about the soundtrack to this movie by Trent Reznor and about writing to it to get that really dark atmospheric feel. I started writing to the soundtrack of it, and it is probably one of the best pieces of writing advice I have ever heard. So love it. A book I reread last month, but I have never seen any of the movies of, but I'm going to go on a limb and say, read The Great Gatsby before you watch the movies. I also feel like most people have probably read The Great Gatsby because it was required at least back when I was in high school. I don't know how much things have changed since the 1800s, but I had to read it back then. And I reread it again for the first time just last month, and I loved it. So this time around, I actually listened to the audiobook of it, which Sean Astin narrates. And I had forgotten so much about this book, and I really enjoyed it. And I know that there's multiple Gatsby movies. There's a Robert Redford one, and then there's the Leonardo DiCaprio one. So I obviously want to watch the Leo one. I'm really curious just to see it, and I think it'll just be a fun, decadent way to spend an afternoon, but Gatsby is on the list. Another one I've talked about before, and I don't want to be sounding like a broken record, but The Romantics by Gail Niederhofer. This book is so wonderful. This is a group of college friends who reunite for a wedding weekend for two people in the group. And there are secrets and lies and jealousy and competition, and there is some mixed dating amongst the group, and the bride and the groom-to-be, the groom used to be involved with somebody else in the group, and that sort of always has lingered in the group. So it's about the complications of friendships and how you change over time and how people don't see you as anything other than what you were at the time, and old rivalries and jealousies. And it basically takes place in the course of like 36 hours of that wedding weekend. And there is partying and there is drinking and there is just a whole lot of stuff that comes out. And I loved it so, so much. There's so much in this book that reminded me of my group of friends. And then the movie of this is also just so well done. And it's Josh Duhamel and Anna Paquin and Katie Holmes and Malin Ackerman and Seth Brody. That's not his name. Adam Brody. He was Seth Cohen on the OC. I just love this book so much, and the movie is so good. I own it. I've watched it so many times. This book came out in 2008, so I don't feel like it's a book that I hear anybody really talk about, which is such a bummer because it's so great. So I will continue to scream about how great this book is and how great this movie is, but read the book first. The next book I want to say came out more recently as a movie or TV show, and I'm not even sure if it's a miniseries or if it's just a movie, and it's Anatomy of a Scandal by Sarah Vaughan. So I haven't read this yet, nor have I seen the show, since clearly I don't even know what the show's about. But this is, I remember it being like a huge book a while ago, and I don't even wholly know what it's about, but I bought it because of course. So this says a shocking confession, a high-profile trial, and a scandal unfolding. So Sophie Whitehouse has a lovely home, 2 adorable children, and a handsome, successful husband. In other words, she has the perfect life. In other words, you know it's going to blow up, right? So everything changes the night her husband James comes home and confesses an indiscretion. Suddenly her neat, ordered world is turned upside down. Did she ever really know the man she married? Oof. So James stands accused of a terrible crime, and their family is shoved into the spotlight as his trial begins. Behind the scenes, another woman is working to destroy Sophie's husband, yet Sophie remains convinced of James's innocence and is desperate to protect her precious family from the rumors that threaten to rip them apart. Ooh, she's kept his darkest secrets ever since their university days. And if she stood by him then, she can do it now. But the truth is even more shocking than anyone could ever have thought. Is James the guilty perpetrator or an innocent victim of a toxic agenda? Oof, why am I not reading this? I feel like I pulled this off the shelf when I did my shelf tour too, and I said the same thing. I need to put this more like in my line of sight. Let me know if you guys have read this or seen the show, but this one, I feel like I'm gonna move it not back on the shelf so I remember to read it. Which sounds silly, but you know what I mean. The next book is Defending Jacob by William Landay, and this is on Apple TV Plus. And I saw that it was on Apple TV Plus, but I had not read the book yet, even though I bought the hardcover of this book when it came out back in the day. So it was my motivation to read it, which I did. So I did a combo of audiobook and physical book reading of this, and I really enjoyed this book. So this is set outside of Boston, and our main character is an ADA named Andy Barber, and his son Jacob is accused of murdering one of his classmates, and Jacob vehemently denies doing it. So his son winds up going on trial, and Andy is trying to find out the truth and trying to find out what actually happened to his classmate and who actually killed him. So this is a really interesting exploration of what you will do like for your family. Do you know your children? Dark secrets. And this show was so well done. They did have a slightly different ending to the show, which I get. Things like that happen. But I just thought the show was so beautifully done. They changed a few characters, but not in a bad way. Like a police officer who was a man in the book is a woman in the TV show, like that kind of a thing. But the story is there. Chris Evans plays Andy Barber. He is brilliant in this. It's dark, it's atmospheric. You guys know I love anything in and around Boston. There's a lot of trial in this, obviously, because it's a courtroom case. But I just loved it, and I thought the book was really well done. It's a very slow burn. It's very slow to unfold, but I really was here for it, and I really feel like the show captured the book really well. There's more in the book than is in the show because you can only get so much, but it's an 8-part series, I want to say, 6 or 8-part series on Apple TV Plus. It was really, really well done. Loved it. And then a show that is in the process of being filmed right now, so while you're waiting for it to come out, read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid because it's just such a good book. I highly recommend the audiobook. Everybody highly recommends the audiobook of this, and there's for good reason. It's a full cast of characters. It's really well done. This book is told in interview format, so this is Daisy Jones, who was a singer in the 70s, and the band The Six, and they come together and they sort of rise to this peak of stardom, and they break up one night, no explanation for it. And this is kind of the story behind the story many years later. They're being interviewed kind of for like a Rolling Stone type magazine. And it's really interesting because you get everybody's perspective on the same things. And I just thought it was brilliant. And I love how Taylor Jenkins Reid takes risks and tries new things. She dove so deep into the research of this. The band feels authentic. There's songs in this. I can't wait to see how it's going to come to life on the big screen. But I was such a huge fan of this, and I'm very excited to see. They've also started filming One True Loves. And then I feel like Malibu Rising also maybe got picked up to be turned into a show. So I'm really excited to see how her shows are going to translate to the screen. But you guys know I'm a fangirl of hers. Another book that I loved that I would say definitely read the book first and know that the TV show is totally different is Dare Me by Megan Abbott. So this is about high school cheerleaders. It is about a very dark and twisted dynamic between female friendships and what happens when their new cheer coach, Coach Colette French, comes to town, and the very weird dynamic and relationship that the girls have with the coach has with her students, like has them over partying and drinking, how she gets involved in their lives. But this is such a dark side of cheerleading and the competition and like the intensity of the sport and the lengths the girls will go to, whether it's in training, whether it's in starving their bodies, the pain that they cheer through, the just complete talent and stamina it takes to be a cheerleader, and the messed up dynamic of female friendships is so well done. This is a very, very dark book. And there is an element of mystery to it, but that's not the core of it. So I enjoyed the TV show for some of the entertainment value, but they changed up the show a lot. They added in characters I don't think they needed to try and like create different tensions, which I don't think they needed. So to me, they're sort of like two separate entities, but the book is absolutely brilliant. Megan Abbott is just such a talent, and I am just completely failing at life by not reading more of her books, but I loved this so much. I also did part of this on audiobook. The audio was really good, but highly, highly recommend this one. And then a movie that I actually have on my DVR because I had free HBO for a weekend and it was on, but I am going to read the book before I watch the movie, and I'm going to read this book. I'm saying it here before 2021 is out. It's Misery by Stephen King. I popped this up on the screen like last December and I was like, I'm gonna read it this winter, and I didn't. I'm reading it. I finally read Pet Sematary. I finally read my first Stephen King, so I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna read Misery. And this is about best-selling novelist Paul Sheldon, and he gets kidnapped basically by his biggest fan, Annie Wilkes, and she just keeps him in the cabin and she wants him to rewrite the story, and she just sounds like a dark and messed up woman. So this is Kathy Bates and James Caan in the movie. I'm really excited to see the movie because I've heard good things about it, but I'm going to read the book first. And I love a book about a writer, and it's isolation, it's snowy atmosphere, and I'm just expecting great things because some of my favorite people, Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand, have recommended this book to me. So I'm definitely going to be reading this one. Can't wait. And of course, what would a video be without a little rule breaking? So I have actually seen this movie already. It took me a long time to watch it because I was totally terrified of it, but I finally saw it years ago, and now I'm going to read the book, and it's Tom Harris's The Silence of the Lambs. So I picked this up recently in a used book haul that I did for you guys, and I'm going to read about Hannibal Lecter. So I'm going to think about Anthony Hopkins, I'm going to think about Jodie Foster, and I'm very curious to see what, if anything, is different from the book to the movie, and then I probably will rewatch the movie again after I read the book. But I'm going to be super brave, and I'm going to go in, and I feel like this is probably going to be super disturbing like the movie was, but I'm excited for it, so I'm going in. So that's going to do it for just some books to screen. I know I've done these videos before, but it's been a while, and again, I felt inspired by Nine Perfect Strangers. Mostly because I don't know if I want to read the book, but let me know if any of you guys have read it. I know there are so many adaptations that are out there, so let me know what you guys are reading, watching. Do you always read the book before you watch the show? Do you not care? Am I being obsessive about it? Let me know if you watch the show and then read the book. Let me know whatever you want to let me know. But thank you guys so much for hanging out today and spending some of your time with me, and I will see you guys really soon in another video. Bye, everybody.